Hey guys, this is Tony. I'm just working on personal piece. I was just taking a look at it, and it's still very, very rough. Just just basic forms are blocked out, primary shapes. um, so I was going to move on to the secondary shapes, but I just thought before I do that, I thought I would just take this opportunity to do a quick video of how I add some costume details, like boots, for example. Now, we all know who this guy is, and we all know what his costume looks like, but I'm just going to do some generic details just so you can get the idea of what I'm talking about quickly. We know what his actual boots look like, but let's just say that he had just straight across boots. He doesn't. He has, that kind of thing going on with that little wedge shape on top. But let's just, for the sake of this demo, let's just give him flat boots like that. Okay? So what I do is I've got only 600 points on this subtool, these legs. What I'm going to do is divide that one more time and get 2 million. Now, I'm going to show you 3 ways that I like to make boots. First way is very easy. You just hold down Control and mask off an area. Actually, let's get, instead of just doing the square like that, let's grab, holding down Control, I'm going to grab the curve stroke. And let's just angle it a little bit like that. Right? Now, since I have symmetry on, it's going to populate on the other side. So that looks pretty cool. So it's just a question of masking off the boot, right? If you want that fancy little wedge, you can just hold down Control and draw it. Just paint the mask on in the shape you want it. But just for quickness, let's just do that. Now, first way I'm going to show you is extraction. You just go to extract, and this is a little thick. This is default 0.02. That's a little thick. I'm going to change that to 0.00. Whoops. Let's see. I must have hit pause because the light box opened. Hit comma. 0, let's do 0.006. Extract. Now, as soon as this runs, you're going to see the extraction. It's going to give me a pair of boots with a nice little thickness. See that? Now, if I touch anywhere on this screen, that's going to disappear. This is just a preview. So to accept it, I just got to hit this little accept button, and that will accept the boots, the extraction. For some reason, it comes in masked, so you got to clear that mask, and you got to remember to go back to the legs and clear that mask. So there you go. There's your boots, right? Now, the nice thing is it gives you subtools. You got the outer boot, the inner boot, and the rim there. The nice thing about that is you can Z-remesh this. This is pretty dense. This is 1,000,009. This is 2 million almost. So I'm going to Z-remesh that down, right? But first I'm going to crease the polygroups. I want to keep the groups. And I'm going to Z-remesh this way down. And you're going to see why in a second. As soon as this Z-remeshes down to a manageable size, I could show you why I'm doing this. The problem with this is, this is it's a nice way to get a pair of boots, but I'm doing this stuff for 3D printing, right? So 3D printing doesn't like when there are cavities in the mesh. You want all the parts to be watertight. So let me show you, explain what I'm talking about. I just zero meshed it down to 4,000 up from almost 2 million, right? So you see that, how the boots are hollow? They're like boots. They're like real boots. By having, right now it's fine, but if for some reason I'm sculpting on these boots, let's say I'm sculpting some wrinkles, right? And that mesh pulls away, right? Let's just exaggerate and show you exactly what I'm talking about. If this pulls away from the leg, right? And there's a gap in there, if that boot is not touching the leg inside of there, hang on, I'm going to go to display properties so you can see the inside. See that? If that's not touching, there's going to be a gap inside there. See the purple layer? That's not touching the leg anymore. So there's a cavity. And 3D printers do not like that. There's going to be resin trapped in there when you print, and some of the slicing software will not even print it. They'll just kick it back out. So that's why I don't like using the extraction method for boots and masks and other costume details. I need this to be right up against the leg. So what I can do is, I hope I'm explaining this right. It sounds a little confusing. It's not really. What I'm going to do is, I'm going to isolate the boots. I'm going to select by holding down Command, Shift, Alt. I'm going to select this outer polygroup. Delete Hidden. Let's put Display Properties on double so we can see the inside. Then I'm going to hit BZM, which gives me my Z Modeler brush. Hover over a polygon, hold down Shift, select all polygons, and extrude it inward and make these boots even thicker on the inside. Now, it's going to be very difficult for me to get a gap there. I mean, you see how thick those boots are. It's going to be very difficult to have a cavity, you know. So that's one way to get around that. Then I can increase polygroups, divide. And then I could sculpt wrinkles onto these boots to my heart's content and not have to worry that I'm pulling the boot away from the leg. You know what I mean? That's one way to do it. Okay. That's the extraction method. Now, let's delete that. And let's show you another way. The other way, which is safer, is to just duplicate these legs. Right? I'll duplicate them. And let's group visible. So we got the red legs and we got the blue legs. The red legs and the blue legs. So I'm going to go to the red legs and I'm just going to select trim rectangle. I'm just going to trim off the bottom. Whoops, I must have subdivisions. Yes, delete the subdivisions. You can't have subdivisions when you do this. So I'll just delete the bottom. And there you go. You've got, actually, let me go back. Let me do it the other way. I want to delete the top and just leave the boots. There you go. Now you got the red boots and they're solid. So basically it's like the extraction, but it's completely solid. There's no hole there at all. These are watertight. Right? So now, but it's flush with the legs. Completely flush. So what you got to do is you got to grab a move brush, and you got to pull it out a little bit. You see the blue underneath, and you got to either, tweak it that way, or you could just inflate the whole thing or enlarge the whole thing. Right? Here it is flush again with the leg. So I'm going to crease the polygroups, and I'm just going to inflate. That's under deformation, way down here. Inflate, just inflate by like, I don't know, 2 or 3. And there you go. You got a slightly larger boot, a slightly larger lower leg. Plus, if I turn transparency on, that leg is still under there. And you don't have to worry about any gaps in the mesh, right? Once you merge these together, that's completely solid and completely watertight. So that's version number 2, is you could just duplicate your legs and crop off the boots as needed. And then you could kind of shape them the way you want them shaped. Right? So that's two ways to do it. Let's delete that. Now I'm going to show you my favorite way. And the way that, those 2 versions are probably what I use most for realistic type boots. You want a little bit of a separate part. You want it to look like a boot. But for comic book stuff that I'm doing, that I like to do, I'm going to try a different method. I'm just going to have scribe lines. Now, for scribe lines, you can grab a Damien standard brush with a very intense and small brush size and very intense, and you could just do it by hand like this. And that works. You could do that. But it's still all one polygroup, and it can be, even if you turn the lazy mouse off and you're super careful, it can be a little sloppy, right? I like to do something a little bit different. I'm going to turn on my polygroups. I'm going to mask off the boot again and get a separate polygroup. Now I got enough geometry here. I got 2 million points where it's going to give me a nice crisp line, right? So once you have your mask, you go up to stroke. No, I'm sorry. Before that, you hold down Control W. If I hit Control W, that polygroups, it will give me a separate polygroup for that boot, right? It's still all one piece, but it's just got a separate polygroup. Then I go up to stroke and I hit, frame mesh. And what that does is it throws a line around the polygroup. You see that little dotted line there? It's still a little jagged. I don't know why it's jagged. You know what? In order to eliminate that, I'm going to go back a few steps. I'm going to Dynamesh this and get some really dense mesh here. See that mesh? It's a little bit, it's clean, but it's a little bit, it's not accepting the mask as well as with a Dynameshed subtool. So I'm going to Dynamesh. I'll do it. Let's see. No, I don't want to keep the subdivision. Let's see what this number goes to. 3,000,009. Okay, so now I got almost 4 million points. And you see how dense that mesh is? That's going to accept my mask much better. So let's mask it again. Symmetry is on, so it's going to do the other side as well. Now I can go up. Now that's a lot less jagged. I go up to stroke. Stroke, frame mesh. and it throws a line around there, and then I go to my curved tube snap brush. It's over here, curved tube snap. Sometimes this is tricky. Let's see if it worked. Did it work? If it's too dense, it doesn't really work. Rats, I'm going to have to go down a little bit. It's not working. If it's too dense, it won't frame that. Oh, you know what? I forgot to do the polygroup. Duh. Control W. There you go, you dummy. Now you do stroke. And it should throw a line around that. Yes, you see the line? It's still a little jagged, but we can clean that up. It's better than it was. It was kind of choppy before. But, I mean, I'm zoomed way, way in. And I can clean this up. Watch this. I go to Curve Tube Snap, and I just hit that line, and it will throw a ring around the leg. And that's going to be my cutter I'm going to use to do the scribe line. So, I still got that dotted line. I'm going to tap off the line, and that accepts it. Now you can see the leg is masked. Clear the mask. And I want to separate these rings from the leg. Split hidden. Now these rings are separate geometry, and I'm going to use them to Boolean out a nice crisp line from the leg, which is going to act as the boot, the scribe line for the boot. So there's my ring. You can see it's it's only 8,000. Even if I divide a couple of times, it's still a little bit wobbly. So what I'm going to do is turn off Dynamesh and Z-remesh that. And let's let that run. There we go. For some reason, it gave me two. It gave me two different rings. See that? It gave me a white one and a red one. I don't know the reason for that, but I don't need two. Delete hidden. Let's work with the white ones. There we go. There, let's make them pink so we can see them better. Okay, so I Z-remeshed it. Now it's down to 8,000. And you can see they're a little bit cleaner. If I divide a couple of times, those bumps are kind of going away. And I can go even cleaner by going to Polish by Features. See that? And it's clean. It's subtle, but it's cleaning those up a little bit. Now, if I turn on this little circle right here and do it, it's going to be much more powerful. Now it's getting so clean that it's actually shrinking. It's shrinking those lines, which is not a bad thing. I want them to be thin. I don't want them to be big, thick lines. So I'm going to run that a couple more times, Polish by Features. And then if I isolate, you can see how smooth that is. That's a nice, smooth ring. Okay? Now, I go to, I want to put this below the legs. I'm going to put the rings below the legs. Turn on Live Boolean. Turn on this little half moon thing. That's the cutter, right? I'll zoom in, and you can see what's going to happen. It's going to Boolean out a nice, clean scribe line, right? So let's do that. I'm on the legs now, and I got the cutter button turned on. Live Boolean. Let's just hit Make Boolean Mesh. Now, I want to apologize because my buttons are all up here in my custom interface. These buttons are all, they come with ZBrush. They're all default. They're all in here in the menus somewhere. I just forgot where they were. I forgot. Oh, well, here's make Boolean mesh right here. But I put it up here. So all of these buttons that I just hit are located in the menus. You're going to have to find them because, to be honest with you, I forgot where they are. And it would take me forever to find them. So anyway, I suggest you make a custom UI for the buttons that you use all the time. Anyway, here are the legs. These are the U-meshed legs. They appear up here as a separate subtool, right? Here's my Superman sculpture with 11 subtools. Here's the result of the live Boolean, the Boolean mesh thing. So that's what I've got. Now I could delete these old solid legs. I could delete the cutters. And now I have Superman with no legs. Right? So I go to append, and I append the new legs with the scribe line. See this S shield up here? This is what I was in the process of doing to his chest. I was going to scribe out the shield off of his chest. But anyway, let's go back to the legs. And that's my favorite way to do it for comic book stuff because it gives me nice, clean scribe lines. I do not have to worry about the boots being, there being a cavity in between the leg and the boot, or if the boots are thick enough, blah, blah, blah. So I just turn on my polygroups, and if I want the boots red, I isolate this, hold down Control, Shift, and Alt, isolate that, color the boots red, and that little scribe line also has a separate polygroup, so let me go grab that, and I'll paint it just a slightly darker red, or even a black. And there you go. That's how you do a nice, clean comic book type of boot scribe line. Now there's no dimension to it. It's flush with the leg, but that's a nice thing. That's what you see in comic books. You don't see Superman's boots as like, very thick boots like you see in the movies, like Christopher Reeve's boots or the new guy's boots. You see in comic books, you just see a black line that the comic book artist drew. So that's my way of keeping it true to the comic book art. All right, guys, that's 3 quick ways of making costume details, and you can do the same exact thing, which I will do for the belt and the shorts. Right now, I have dimensional belt and shorts. I actually brought in a cylinder and flattened it down for the belt. You could see the thickness, and you could see the shorts. I just duplicated the legs and just cropped it. I clipped it, right? Like I showed you with the boots. But I don't like it. I mean, it's very rough and it's all uneven, but I am going to do the scribe line. I'm going to do the scribe line method. That for the shorts and for the belt and for the S shield. And it's going to look nice. It's going to look like a comic book statue, like it was based on the comic book art, as opposed to a more three-dimensional, realistic statue. Just something to think about. 3 different ways to do it. I hope you liked the little mini tutorial, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.